Morning, everyone. I see people are still joining in from the waiting room. Some people are still connecting to audio. In the meantime, just a quick welcome from me to thank you guys all for joining today. Um, just a few technical things on my side. This meeting will be recorded. It's a public meeting, and it will be available at some point afterwards on our YouTube channel. Um, the first part of the session will be for the speakers to give their addresses. And then the second part of the session is for everybody else involved in this meeting to participate, contribute, and ask questions. You can do that by either raising your hand or using the react function on the bottom of the screen. On your phone, I think it might be a little bit different, but you will see where you can do that. And then I think that's it from me. The only thing is, oh no, I think that's it from me. Um, my colleague Munjozi will be chairing today's session. And I'm going to hand it over now to my colleague Samantha to give an official opening for today's meeting. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Debucho, and good morning, colleagues, and a very warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining the Southern African Liaison Office for this virtual public multi-stakeholder dialogue on Mozambique's national inclusive dialogue and its prospects for democratic consolidation. We are convening at a particularly important moment. Mozambique has recently concluded phase one of its national dialogue process following the contested October 2024 general elections and a period of sustained post-electoral tension. This initial phase marked a significant, if complex, step toward re-engagement among a wide range of actors, including those both inside and outside formal political processes, who have been exploring pathways toward national reconciliation and democratic renewal. As the country prepares to move into phase two of the dialogue, a critical window has opened. The next phase presents an opportunity not only to reflect honestly on what has been achieved thus far, but also to interrogate the limitations of the process, identify strategic priorities going forward, and consider how inclusivity, transparency, and accountability can be strengthened. In particular, there is a need to ensure that civil society, women, the youth, and marginalized communities are not peripheral to the process, but are meaningfully engaged in shaping its direction and outcomes. Today's discussion is intended to contribute to that reflection. We hope to examine how the national dialogue can be deepened, how democratic efforts can be connected to regional frameworks within SADC, and how international partners can offer support that is responsive to Mozambique's context as well as its political realities. This dialogue forms part of SALO's broader commitment to connecting local realities with regional and international policy processes and to supporting non-state actors' meaningful participation in shaping democratic responses to crises. We see these conversations as an essential space for constructive, policy-relevant engagement on peace, governance, and democratic consolidation in Southern Africa. We're grateful for your time and your insights and your willingness to engage openly in what we expect to be a thoughtful and forward-looking discussion. With that said, I'd like to thank you once again for being here, and I look forward to rich exchange over the course of the session. I will now hand over to our chair, Munjutsi.
Thank you, Samantha, for, I think, setting the tone clearly for this dialogue. And on my part, let me just also welcome you all to 2026, if we had not done that, in particular with regard to Mozambique. And also take this opportunity, I think, as SALO to pass our condolences to the people of Mozambique and the families. We know that a number of lives have been lost due to flooding. And I think that it's a real challenge that we're facing as a region. And hopefully, it's one of the issues that we can begin to discuss as non-state actors on what needs to be done to ensure that when natural disasters do happen, they do not claim as much lives as we are seeing. So indeed, our condolences to the people of Mozambique on the disaster of the flooding. And I think Samantha has done an eloquent and quite comprehensive presentation on why we are here in her opening remarks. So I don't need to repeat that. Just to emphasize that at SALO, we believe that building consensus is an important aspect of building better societies, a better region, a better continent, and indeed to try and find our space as a region in the broader global space. So we again convene with the intention of how do we find each other nationally on this particular topic that is within Mozambique? How do we find each other regionally? And of course, how do we locate our struggles in the international space? And what can we do to ensure that we advance the needle or move the needle towards a more democratic society, more democratic space? And we know that the dialogue process in Mozambique is crafted on the basis of challenges that come post-conflict. That how do we address the challenges we are facing as a people, as countries? And so this dialogue is not just important to you colleagues from Mozambique, but to all of us in this region. First, because we know that dialogues have been tried over a very long period of time in this region as a solution to post-conflict environments, particularly electoral conflicts. But we also know that the success of the dialogue process in Mozambique or its failure has implications on the region in terms of what dialogue really means in trying to resolve our issues. So we're looking to learn from the experiences of the dialogue process as a tool for democratic advancement in Mozambique, but we're hoping that we can help bring some experiences to the colleagues that are on the core face of this dialogue, of this struggle for a democratic Mozambique. The experiences from the region, from elsewhere, how do we utilize that experience to bring more positivity in the dialogue process in Mozambique? And we are hoping to have a robust discussion because we know we have colleagues that are deep into the dialogues. We also have colleagues that are doing everything they can to ensure that Mozambique um, uh, becomes more democratic without being involved directly with the dialogue process. So it will be important to hear all these voices. And without wasting much time, I want to quickly go to our first speaker, who will give us an overview of where things are. We know that phase one is concluded, and then we take it to the different other speakers that we have. So we have Prof. Euclides, who is with ES, and Prof. I would want you to jump right in and give us a sense of where things are. And yeah, maybe start there and then see where we can go from here. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. I will not give you properly an overview, but I would rather make punctuated remarks to help us set points of entry for this important discussion. So I would like to first begin by acknowledging the importance of this moment and the process that has completed. We have now completed the national and the diaspora consultation phase of the Mozambican inclusive and national dialogue. And this is it's an event, it's a moment that needs to be celebrated. And the reason for this celebration is that over the past decade, civil society organizations and researchers, including the Institute for Social and Economic Studies, where I'm based, have shown that Mozambique was facing an increasingly limited civic space. So there was the shrinking of civic space, shrinking of the space for activists, for scholars, for intellectuals, for citizens to make public interventions freely without fearing reprisals. So for that reason, it is important to celebrate this moment. It is also important to celebrate the fact that the exercise has sought to be inclusive in the sense of first looking at nationals who are in the diaspora, but also looking at the diversity of actors within the Mozambican territory. Naturally, this process, and as much effort has been made to include all categories of citizens, there are voices that will always need additional space, will need additional opportunities to be heard. In short, an exercise that seeks the kind of representation or inclusion that this exercise has done will always fall short of its goal. In the sense, representation becomes an aspiration, and I think as such, there is work that was well done. So we should. Those are the two main reasons we should celebrate this achievement. Now, there are important questions to pose on the process that has just concluded. One of them is, are there key actors that have not, in one way or another, been included? If they are, the process should consider ways of continuing to welcome the multiple voice in the Mozambican society that need to express themselves in the name of promoting national development and social cohesion. The second element of the dialogue and national consultation was it faced the challenge that there were multiple issues that were put on the table. This means that the technical team that is working in support of the process will have a huge task in terms of systematizing the data, the information that has been collected. Going forward, there are 2 points I would like to highlight. The first one is that we, as Mozambicans engaging in this dialogue, need to pay attention to history. And the first point that we can learn from history is that it should be a mistake if we situate this national dialogue only in the context of the post-electoral crisis. The post-electoral crisis triggered the process that led to this dialogue, but the post-electoral crisis itself was a reflection of a broader institutional crisis or crisis of institutions in Mozambique. And that is important to take into consideration in going forward. The second point, in terms of historical lessons that we need to keep in mind, has to do with the fact that we have done in the past different types of dialogues, and we need to learn from those dialogues from the past. So we've had dialogues that one could term political dialogues. I mean, dialogues that had primarily the interests of political parties, or at least had the political parties leading these processes. And then we can speak about the peace agreements between the government and Renamo from 1992, 2014, 2019. So there has been there is a history of political dialogues in that sense. So if we are going to make an evaluation and situate better this process, we need to consider that history. Second, we also have processes of dialogue that were geared towards development, some with higher level of formalism, others with less. But I could mention the 2009 and then 2019 African peer review mechanism that Mozambique conducted. But there are others. Mozambique has developed an agenda, the Agenda 2025, which was also a result of a process of broader consultation. And more recently, the National Development Strategy. So there has been a history of let's say, political and development dialogues, if that distinction can be made. And obviously, to these dialogues, it's important to add efforts that the country has undertaken to reform its institutions. In particular, the public sector reform process. It's a process that needs to be included in our evaluation of the national dialogues. And of course, there were others, including process to reduce corruption in the country. So in general, as we go forward, we need to take into account lessons from all these processes that in one way or another are forms of dialogue. And the reason for that is that if we understand that if our point of departure is that the dialogue that we are witnessing at the moment is not only a result of electoral disputes, then we need to open up going forward. I would like to highlight 2 points to conclude related to the next phase. The next phase will culminate with legislative action. And here again, what lays ahead is the work of the technical commission that is supporting this process. Here, the technical commission will, by itself, will not be able to work on the amount of information and do the kind of intellectual exercise that it will be required to capitalize on the information that has been collected thus far. Therefore, there is a challenge ahead to see how do we capitalize on the experiences and voices that we've collected in the past months. So there is technical work there, which will require the support of public institutions, research institutions, and other intellectuals who can also contribute to, in a way, narrow down what are the issues that require immediate attention and for which they can be taken action. But then what are the issues that need either further consultation or need further technical discussions? The last point has to do with the monitoring and accountability. It is important that as we go forward, we think of civic space to engage public office holders and follow up in the process so that there is assurance that one, the targets that have been set are met, and that the changes that might happen during the technical work that will proceed reflect the discussions that have been taken in this phase one. Again, here we also have a long history of passing on legislation that resulted from long consultative process, but in the end turned out to be ambiguous legislation that lead to additional political tension. So those are my initial remarks. I would like to share with you for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. I think quite a good starting point, quite a clear picture of where things are. But also, I think you ended on a note on the next phase, what it looks like, and the role of monitoring and evaluation, and what civil society can be doing going forward. And I think you highlighted one of the many things you highlighted that I think is very important is to use history as a lesson in terms of where you are and where does this process you are undergoing now situate, given that there's been many dialogues in Mozambique, and even currently there are other dialogues that are happening at community level, at official or non-official. And the question would be, how do they relate with the current dialogue process? And so the issue of lessons, I think it's beyond, we cannot overemphasize it. So thank you, Prof, for that. And I might just ask you at some point for a slight favor when we have our colleagues who will be unable to speak in English for maybe brief or part translations so that we're in the room. But we'll see when we get to that. And so we know that a lot of young people have been engaged and involved with the dialogue process itself, and others as outsiders without being in the official processes, but mobilizing young people to be on the table of these discussions. And it is in this context that I want to bring my brother Jonathan Nangale from Inclusio. And I know that there is a lot of work that you have been doing together with others. And I think we get an overview from the prof on where things are. It would be good to hear the young people's take in terms of where the process are, if possible, the achievements from phase one, the limitations, if they are there, and how do they pose as lessons for what you are preparing to do in phase two as young people. So yeah, Jonathan, give us your take and also maybe end on if you have started the process of engaging other young people across the region for lessons, for different kind of things. But if there are asks as well, I see there are a few young people from across the region in the meeting. if there are specific asks that as young people in Mozambique, you would want the region to bring on the table, that would be welcome. So yeah, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning to all. My name is Jonathan. I'm from Inclusão. Before taking on what brings us together today, I would like to share my solidarity with all the Mozambicans that were affected by the floods recently that affected our country. Well, speaking of the dialogue and specifically the first phase, in a sense of overview, we would say that we, as young people, we saw two kind of movements within the civil society towards this dialogue. We saw those who were engaged officially in the process, being part of the work committees in each of the thematic questions of the dialogue, and those who were working unofficially towards the dialogue. And we as youth, as part of civil society, were engaging in that. That was our intervention. So we tried to engage in a lot of activities to promote a sustainable public engagement with the dialogue, because the first thing that we were aware when the dialogue started, is it was that a few people knew actually what the dialogue was about. And we, in that sense, we tried to develop some activities. We developed a lot of community workshops. We developed some conference to engage young people in this process. And around December 18th, we gathered all the information that we collected around between October and December. And we compiled into a document that we shared with the technical commission for the dialogue. I believe that was December 18th, we shared. And well, this was a little bit of our activities. I just summed them up, but it was a quite a process, because when the dialogue in one way is a response to the crisis, the post-electoral crisis, and we saw a lot of the mobilization, youth mobilization around the country. And so with that, many of the young people were a little bit skeptical about the fact that the dialogue really does really mean a sustainable response to the crisis. Because, as Dr. Euclides just said, it's not the first time that we have a dialogue here in Mozambique. The only different thing, this is a good thing, is that it's no longer a bilateral dialogue. Now we are engaging multiple stakeholders in this dialogue. Young communities, women communities are now engaging in a national process, and that's a win for all of us as Mozambicans. But around this process now, we saw that many young people were mistrust the process, and there were young people that mistrust and didn't want to participate, and there were young people that mistrust and were able to participate, wanted to participate just to hold the process accountable, And in this sense, we tried to, in the first phase, we tried to compile all these problems. As inclusion, as an organization, we issued many policy briefs around the youth perspective of the problems that are that the country is facing. And with that, we try to draft some proposals to share with the committee, the technical commission. And those proposals were around jobs, opportunities, were about economic opportunities for the youth people, because besides seeing the post-electoral crisis, seeing the elections as the pinpoint for those problems, the country has been facing a lot of economic problems. And as the youth is the majority, and when this majority is unsatisfied, this majority is marginalized, that brings bad response, that brings a lot of tension. And if we as youth, we believe that if you want to break this tension, we need to address these economic issues that many youth people are facing. And when we submitted these proposals to the technical commission, the next thing that we are seeking to do is to engage with the work commissions at the parliament, so that we can try to engage in a more institutional way to make our proposals go all to the end, right? And to hold the responsible institutions accountable, because many people, or many young people, are just don't exactly believe that this process will unfold real reforms in the country. But I believe that is the crucial point that all of us as civil society and the technical commission and various other groups, we should try to continue to engage in sustainable public engagement, and to make our proposals or opinions accountable at the process. I will try to stick to the time frame, but I would like to add something about transparency. We are now saying that the first phase is officially over, but as we speak, there is a women national, I would say, gathering that is happening between women of all parts of the countries and the technical commission. So it seems that the first phase is not exactly over, but because our public consultation is still continuing. And another point that makes me say that we need transparency, especially about the steps of this process, is because the technical commission is still receiving proposals, and it has opened the link for the electronic online proposal until March 31st. So it seems that the first phase isn't exactly over, and that's a point that we all should agree upon. If the first phase is over, it's over, and we'll go on to the next phase. The next phase is the drafting, is for the drafting of the proposals. And this next phase is very important, because I believe that is a phase that we should still try to engage people into the debate about the national dialogue, and to the problems and the themes that the national dialogue is trying to bring. Well, as my final remarks, I would like to say that this dialogue is a very important matter, because not just in a national level, but on a regional level, because we saw that from 2023 to 2025, we had a lot of post-electoral crisis in Tanzania, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique leading our national dialogue process right now. It will be a kind of a model for other countries around the region. So it's very important that we do our best as civil society to this process to succeed. With that much to add, I would thank you for this opportunity.
Thanks, Jonathan. Clear as usual, and I think that you put on the table a lot of issues that obviously would continue to be issues going forward, and would need, I think, both the technical committee to continue to bring clarity to the issues, but also as civil society yourselves to be more clarified around those issues of transparency, the issues that you raise, at what point is there a cutoff, issues of the steps, what are the steps of the dialogue process, and is that a shared understanding by all stakeholders in terms of this is what will happen, we'll move from here to there to there? Is that a shared understanding? Does civil society understand the dialogue process itself to be like that? Does other stakeholders, businesses, diplomats, and as you say, women share that understanding of the process? So I think it would be important because it helps build trust, it helps build confidence in the process itself. But I think, as you correctly say, as civil society, you're already taking initiatives to get clarity around those issues. And I think Prof touched also on the process itself around what the next steps would be. I'm hoping that Joao would also help us put more substance on what the methodology or the steps of the process are supposed to be. Because for me, every time I talk to different colleagues in Mozambique, I get a sense that it's a bit gray, it's a gray area around what exactly the steps are. And I think that on paper, when you talk to Edson Makwakwa, you get a sense that they have a clear process, but it does not seem like it has been, the clarity has been translated to other stakeholders. So what can we do to help bring clarity to what this process is going to do? The next phase as well, which you touched on, that it's the drafting phase of the proposals. And I think we'll get into looking forward. What are you guys looking to do? What lessons have you learned from phase one that you would want to bring to the table and help clarify the roles you are playing, whether you are formally engaged with the process or you are an outsider, as you put it, and you are seeking accountability from the process? Where do we stand? What are we going to be doing? But Jonathan, I'm going to be a bore to you as I would be to the prof as well. I want to bring in Melania. And Melania is with the Mozambique Youth Association for Gender Equality and Education. And I know that together with Inclusio, they have been some of the young people that have been trying to mobilize, be on the tables to put proposals, but lead a very strong charge around ensuring that this dialogue process does not become just a ritual, but that it leads to tangible reforms. And because Melania will speak in Portuguese, Jonathan, I will ask you to help us with a bit of translation where she speaks in Portuguese. I hope there won't be a problem. And I want to apologize for the challenge with translation. We should have been having translation, and I promise that we'll sort that out. So yeah, Melania. Teboko, am I audible?
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Melanie. Did
Hi.
you hear? Were you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
Oh, okay,
Yes, I do.
perfect. So,
Very well.
so we'll ask Jonathan to help you with the translation. Let's hope it works. Is that okay?
Jonathan, pode nos fazer esse favor? A Feroza, acredito que ela será a terceira. Ela vai intervir a seguir, então depois dela posso intervir. Então, se não te importares, podes fazer a nossa tradução. É possível?
Eu vou tentar, vamos a isso. E se
Obrigada.
precisar de ajuda, vou pedir ao doutor Euclides.
Tudo bem, obrigada.
Okay. The floor is all yours.
Ok, mas eu acho que quem vai intervir agora é a Feroza. Feroza, não sei se está disponível. Ou se posso iniciar. Yeah. Ok.
Okay. I'm a bit lost, Jonathan.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What are we doing?
Right. Feroz is going to start speaking right now. So
Oh,
instead of Melania.
Oh, okay. All right. That's okay. So and you also do the same because I think Feroza would want to
Oi,
to
já estou
also.
pronto. Jonathan, já posso, né?
Yes. Yes. Vamos pouco, hein? Podemos começar.
Já. Sintetizei muito por causa da tradução, né? Sim.
Bem.
Bom dia a todos,
Good morning to all.
os meus aqui de Moçambique e aos outros dos cantos do mundo. Eu vou fazer a minha apresentação de forma sintética, principalmente por conta da questão da língua,
Okay.
para não dificultar a percepção. Eu tenho
Okay.
algum...
Good morning. Good morning to all. Good morning to all. I will try to sum up my presentation because of the language issue. And that's about it. Feroza?
Sim, tenho alguns pontos em relação ao nosso olhar ou entendimento em relação ao diálogo político inclusivo em Moçambique, né?
I have a few points to highlight about the national dialogue.
Primeiro partido que estamos a participar, sim, ativamente, enquanto ordem de advogados, de direitos humanos especificamente, temos ações concretas no âmbito do diálogo, ainda hoje está a decorrer algumas sessões onde também estamos a participar ativamente, mas nós temos algumas reservas na observação de todo o processo, que a seguir passarei a citar.
As the law bar, we are trying to sorry. As the law bar, we are participating in the national dialogue, and we have developed a few activities that I'm going to share it right now.
Sim. Eu disse que nós estamos a participar, mas temos algumas reservas em relação...
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have a few setbacks.
Mas estamos ativamente no processo, porque acreditamos que, independentemente do nosso entendimento, é importante fazer parte do processo. Então, as nossas reservas resumem-se em alguns aspectos que vou aqui trazer. O primeiro
We, as the Loba, we have a few setbacks, but we are trying to overcome it. And now I will start nominating what the.
Yeah. A primeira tem que ver que nós entendemos, assim como temos a conclusão de que não houve uma verdadeira pacificação pós-eleições, pós as manifestações que foram o principal motor, que são o principal motor deste diálogo nacional.
There were not really a truly pacification after the protests that occurred in the country, and we believe that's crucial for the national dialogue.
Não houve uma purificação das dores das pessoas. Ainda temos pessoas que precisam de intervenções médicas, que estão a ser remetidas à marginalização, não estão a ter resposta do Estado moçambicano. Ainda temos. Para.
Yes, we believe that there are people that suffered a lot with the post-electoral crisis, that the government hasn't helped them yet, and we believe that that's crucial if you want to take on the process.
Ainda temos muitas pessoas presas. Tivemos um induto que é um falso induto em relação à resposta às manifestações, as pessoas que estão presas no âmbito das manifestações.
We still have people that were locked from the manifestations, from the protests, and we had the indulged, I believe, but it wasn't a true process. And
neste exato momento está a decorrer o julgamento de um processo muito midiático das manifestações. Exato momento, falo agora mesmo, está alguns colegas estão a defender, assim como outros no canto do país, mas falo desses especificamente, dos jovens que foram totalmente violentados pela polícia no âmbito das manifestações. Falo do caso Nai.
There are still judicial process going on that don't have any response yet. And Faraza, what is the case? Qual é o caso?
Nai Kambuma.
And one example of that is the case of the Nai Kambuna. It's still in a judicial process with that answer.
Entre outros processos a nível de todas as províncias que nós continuamos a assistir. Então, não há verdadeira pacificação enquanto estiverem a decorrer esses processos não serem inclusos no processo da reconstrução de almas, da reconstrução da justiça.
While this judicial process is still going on, we won't have a true pacification or a true response to the protest crisis that we faced here in the country.
Não haverá um diálogo que será verdadeiramente político e inclusivo enquanto quando a gente espera por ações de reconhecimento do Estado moçambicano, do governo moçambicano, dos seus erros. Nós temos, por exemplo, o decreto 48/2025.
Yeah. If you don't have the response for the crisis that happened, if people are still locked up, we won't have a truly inclusive national dialogue in the country.
Quando temos o decreto 48/2025. Depois
When we have, okay, when we have while we have the decree 48/2025. Yes.
Esse decreto vem a permitir que as comunicações sejam bloqueadas.
Yeah, this decree allows that the communications can be blocked.
Limita a liberdade de associação.
It restricts the association right,
liberdade de manifestação,
the protest right, limits the protest right, the expression or the expression right, free expression right. Yes.
violando grandemente a Constituição da República de Moçambique. E entendemos que esse decreto veio mesmo como uma afronta às manifestações. Ao invés de se pacificar, tenta-se de uma forma inconstitucional limitar essas liberdades.
This decree violates, it's unconstitutional, so it violates all free I would say free will rights.
E é neste âmbito mesmo que, na voz mesmo do próprio bastonário da Ordem dos Advogados, nós vamos iniciar com o processo da verificação e declaração da inconstitucionalidade deste decreto.
In this sense, us as the law bar or the head of the law bar will try to seek the unconstitutional or to defend that this decree is unconstitutional.
Então, não haverá um diálogo nacional e político inclusivo enquanto se focar em reformas que não trazem transparência e não têm uma legitimidade social.
We won't have a really national and inclusive dialogue. Desculpa, Feroz, please para repetir?
Não haverá um diálogo político nacional e inclusivo enquanto se focar em promover reformas sem transparência.
Oh, okay. We won't have a national and inclusive dialogue if we don't have transparency. Yes.
E sem a verdadeira legitimidade social.
And without the truly social legitimacy.
Nós temos estado a notar que este diálogo está a focar mais em aspectos jurídicos.
We've been seeing that this dialogue is highlighting
e
law
não
aspects,
na pessoa humana, não na dignidade da pessoa humana, não nos cidadãos que fazem parte deste país.
we've been seeing that this national dialogue is being highlighting law aspects and not the truly human dignity aspects. Yeah.
Outro ponto a ressaltar é que não há como nós acreditamos num diálogo nacional inclusivo, sem direito à resposta. Tanto é que nós, enquanto ordem, estamos a nos preparar para iniciar com uma ação coletiva de direito à reparação dos manifestantes.
Yes, we believe that we cannot go forward if the people that were affected by the protests don't have a proper answer for the things that they have lost and they have suffered. So we as the law bar, we will start
Com uma ação coletiva
with a collective action
para a responsabilização e direito à reparação das pessoas.
To restitute the rights that people have that has been violated by the state in the protest moment.
E nós esperávamos que isso fosse necessário, porque havendo um diálogo nacional, uma pacificação, era de se esperar que esses aspectos fossem lá incluídos, as pessoas tivessem esse direito de ser ressarcidas, de terem assistência médica, os que perderam seus entes queridos tivessem a devida compensação. Mas não, a ordem tem de fazer isso. É por isso que mais um ponto que faz com que nós não acreditemos neste diálogo nacional inclusivo.
Yes, the law bar didn't thought that this would be necessary to start an action to restitute those rights, because we believe that if the national dialogue is unfolding, these issues would be the first in the agenda to reconcile all Mozambicans and everything that the people have lost during the period of political crisis.
Por fim, mas não um último ponto, mas porque preciso de parar, não haverá um diálogo nacional inclusivo enquanto continuarmos a nos focar em debates, em reuniões e não em mudanças estruturais, considerando que ainda temos pessoas passando fome aqui ao nosso redor, enquanto nós estamos nas salas a discutir sobre o diálogo nacional inclusivo, ainda temos problemas sérios de transporte, ainda temos aspectos de saúde que todos nós sabemos que não temos medicamentos, os médicos estão insatisfeitos, olhando para a justiça também temos os juízes que não estão satisfeitos. Então não haverá diálogo nacional inclusivo enquanto não se focar em aspectos concretos de solucionar os problemas da sociedade e nos limitarmos a querer ter documentos, mudanças, reformas de lei. Não é este o problema de Moçambique. O problema de Moçambique é de políticas públicas reais e que se façam sentir na sociedade.
We won't have a really inclusive and national dialogue if we stick to meetings or conference meetings, or if we stick to debates. If we want to have a really national and inclusive dialogue, we need to face the real problems that the country has, that the health sector, education. We need to face those problems to have a really national and inclusive dialogue.
Transporte, saúde.
Transportation, health, as you said, yes.
Oh. Então, esses eram os pontos que eu tinha aqui a trazer, dizer que, apesar desse entendimento com essas reservas, nós continuamos a participar ativamente enquanto instituição e eu mesma, enquanto pessoa, tanto é que agora vou participar da nossa sessão ao telefone, porque tenho que correr para uma sala de reunião onde estamos a discutir o diálogo nacional inclusivo, que eu própria não acredito se terá alguns resultados apalpáveis para a resposta aos problemas deste país.
Yes, those are my remarks. Those were my main remarks, and I personally, please, pode repetir aquela parte, desculpa.
Qual delas?
Dizia que eram os seus pontos principais depois? Uma parte.
Sim. Eu disse que não sei se vou da mesma forma, que não haverá um diálogo nacional inclusivo Moçambique, enquanto nós respondemos as questões todas que já aqui partilhei, e disse que tanto é que, mesmo agora, eu tenho de sair, eu estou de casa, vou ter que sair a correr, vou para uma sala de reunião, onde estamos a discutir questões sobre o diálogo nacional inclusivo, que é um processo que eu sinto, eu vejo, eu não acredito nele, né? Que virá ter aos problemas reais deste país.
So, as far as I was saying, those were her main remarks about the national dialogue. And she really she's seeing the process, she's participating in the process, but she doesn't really believe that in the art that this process will give tangible outcomes before we address these issues that she has highlighted. So even now, she's going to another meeting about the national dialogue to address these points.
E no fim, vamos ter documentos muito bonitos. Ainda ontem, a sessão foi de ontem e hoje, tudo bonito. Faço parte da parte administrativa. Vamos ter documentos bonitos, decisões bonitas, mas eu desacredito.
She's saying that
haver ações concretas que respondam às preocupações e nós nos limitamos em documentos, estamos nas salas de reuniões sem verdadeiros.
She's saying that without true actions to the problems that the country is facing, if we stick to documents, writing up stuff and having debates, we won't have a truly outcome in this national dialogue process.
Obrigada, vou parar por aqui e mais uma vez pedir desculpas por conta da questão linguística. Eu senti que muita coisa não é a mesma coisa. Ficou por
Yeah.
fora. Agradeço imenso assim por esta
Yeah.
interpretação. Obrigada.
Thank you for this opportunity. Besides the language issue, I would really like to thank for the opportunity, and thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Feroza. I think that we should be apologizing for the translation ourselves. I think we will sort that out. But thanks for putting, I think, very critical, and thanks Jonathan for the translation. Thanks Ben. That was quite good. And thanks Feroza for putting on the table, I think, what is a very important point. One of the key points you put on the table is the conduciveness of the environment to hold a national dialogue, and what needed to have preceded the commencement of the dialogue process itself, particularly around the people that are still arrested, the issues surrounding the violence in October to Feb last year, October 2024 to last year, Feb or March, when the commitment was signed. But also the ongoing challenges that will impact on the conduciveness of the environment and the level of participation, free will participation of ordinary citizens and victims and survivors of the history that led to this dialogue process. So I think that it's a very, very important point. And also I think you hammered on what this dialogue process is supposed to have as an outcome. And I think your argument that we have to go beyond the need to produce documents and have papers that say, yeah, we did this and this is what we produced, but seek to fundamentally shift the environment itself and address in earnest and honest the challenges that this dialogue process was initiated for. I think very, very important, and it would appear to me that there would have to be more discussions with more stakeholders inside Mozambique. As the Bar Association yourself, I think you need to engage, as you are already doing, a lot of other organizations that are participating and highlight this critical importance so that there is a shared, again, understanding of where you are going, what we want to do. And so I'm excited with every time we talk. I mean, you put things on the table that I think that civil society broadly has to engage with and take more seriously and put them on the table, even in discussions with court. But thank you so much. And I want to quickly jump. I see that we are behind time. And Melania, I will have to I want you to come after Julia,
Okay, no problem.
so that we don't move from translation to translation. So Julia, I want you to speak in English. I won't be as democratic, and my apologies. Sorry for that, but I know because you can eloquently do that for us. So Julia, we heard already that phase one is supposed to have ended for the dialogue process. But we also heard that women groups are engaged with courts as we speak, with the technical committee, even as we speak. And I know that you have been at the center of the dialogue processes from a civil society point of view, women's groups, particularly in the North. And we know the special circumstances where this dialogue is happening, particularly in the north, where there's been an insurgence that has raged on for years. And it would be, I think, important for us to appreciate the circumstances you are in and how you are moving from those circumstances to be able to engage in this dialogue process as women groups, but also in terms of what are the practical things that you have been doing in this dialogue process, and why does it seem like phase one is still continuing? I think that's one of the questions that was put by one of the speakers. And for those that have not heard Julia, she's not a new face on this platform. She leads an organization called Promura, and quite a strong voice on SALO platforms around the insurgents in the north, but generally civil society struggles in Mozambique. Julia, I will cut your time to 7 minutes if you don't mind. Thank you, and good to have you. Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Julia Washav. I'm representing Promura. Promura, it means protection women and girls in the north of Cabo Delgado, or in the north of Mozambique and Cabo Delgado province. First of all, I would like to say thank you to invite me for that meeting to talk about national inclusive dialogue. I would like to say that Mozambique, yes, we have a national inclusive dialogue, but we feel as a group of women's, because Mozambique have 11 provinces, and each of provinces in Mozambique, we have a platform for women. All the 11 provinces, we have a forums led by women, and each of that women is coordinating the platform from women, from the gender platform, local organization led by women. So we are connected. I would like to say that the national inclusive dialogue, yes, we receive in Mozambique, we have that mission, but we feel that many women doesn't understand what's going on exactly, what is supposed to do, what they're dealing, what is supposed to say, what is supposed to talk, what we are doing with that national inclusive dialogue. Because we have many thematic groups and the women doesn't know that. For example, in Cabo Delgado, where I'm staying, we have 17 districts. So many women doesn't know that. It's supposed to have one focal point. We have one focal point in each provinces. By the province, we need to have one representative by districts. We have 17 districts. With that, we can make groups of women, and also we can discuss what we would like to bring, what we would like to say, what we would like to participate, what we would like to bring for the court. Court is the technical committee for the National Inclusive Dialogue. What we would really like to see as a mirror from the women. What is our preoccupations? What is the challenge? What we would like to see on that document. And we feel that we don't have that chance. We feel that we don't feel that we are so inclusive in the process. Because when we have the national dialogue, inclusive dialogue, we have time by time as a meeting. When we have this kind of meeting, we receive as a meeting from the moment. We don't have our agenda in the province. We need to have agenda in the province. We need to have one representative from the court, because the people from the court, if they come on the day when we have meeting, who is from the court, who is from the technical committee in Cabo Delgado? Who? Okay, we have from civil society. From the committee, technical committee, who are here? Who can we discuss this kind of issues? Okay, we can talk by meeting, by Zoom meeting, by call, okay? But who are here and how can we continue this dialogue? We ourselves, we have meetings from village, from districts, from communities. We know our problems. We know what we want to change. We know what we want to see in the papers. Each right, each norms, we know what we want to see change. And we know how can we participate with all our bullet points? We know we have the paper in our hands. We know what we have, what we want to see in peace. We know in economy, in education, all sectors, we know, and we have already in the hand. But the way we treat this national inclusive dialogue, the structure is not that much explaining for us. Yes, we have as national, we have the telephone number to who we can talk from Maputo, but in Cabo Delgado, we feel that issue that we didn't deliver. We didn't deliver in the community. So we need to prepare ourselves more to deliver to the communities, to all the focal points from the district, understand, and to don't be scared of that. Many people, when you call to talk about a national inclusive dialogue, they're scared. They think it's something like what's going on, this government is what? We are scared to talk because Cabo Delgado is scared to talk, scared to participate, something related to political issues. So we need to explain to the women that issue of national inclusive dialogue, we are open to talk. People are scared of that. And another issue, what I would like to say is we need to have a respect and also dignity. When I'm talking about respect, I'm talking about the rights. I'm talking about norms and rights. When I'm talking about respect, it's respect the rights for people to talk and participate. We need to first make one service. Our first work is deliver the information related to the rights to talk, rights to participate related to that issue because people are scared. Second, we're going to explain to people that you also have access and opportunity to participate. So we must be more organized on that. And I would like to say that who is monitoring the national dialogue inclusive? In Mozambique, Maputo capital, we have. They have a platform, they have people who monitor. In Cabo Delgado, who? In the provinces, who? What is the committee in the provinces? Who is monitoring the process? Who? Okay, we civil society are organized because we deliver the information. But where is the group of that? We need to make one group, one platform who is all the people are there, government, civil society, churches, also the lady who fish, the fish, who's in the market, all women, in the economic side, all we need to have one platform very strong to deliver, to talk about that. When we have meeting, we are together. When the meeting goes, all people are scared of that. So we need more to listen voices from the women. We need more to monitor the process. We know that civil society can also call the government and to make the platform. We have a group who they started that, but we didn't make the platform. If each province make the platform from the group, we will go on the right way. And thank you very much. Over to you.
Thanks, Julia. I think that was brief, but eloquently putting on the table some of the challenges. And I think that it's again some of the issues that have been highlighted around the conduciveness of the environment, particularly Cabo Delgado, where there is a history of the insurgents, the history especially of the history that I think Prof was talking about as he set the tone for this meeting, the history of the civil war in Mozambique. And with that comes the fear to participate. And so in terms of this dialogue, have we built a conducive environment for people to be able to participate? But I wanted you to help us here, Julia, on where the process is, because we are told, this is how we know the process to be unfolding, that phase one, which was the gathering of views from communities, has ended. But we are told that as women groups, you are still engaging and making submissions to court. How is that? How is the process unfolding from your understanding as women's groups? From here, where do you go? What's the next step? What will happen? Do we have that understanding, or as you put it, very few people in communities know what this dialogue is about and what it's supposed to do? So briefly,
Yes.
because we are also running out of time. So very briefly.
We also here in Mozambique, 11 provinces, we are online. Yesterday and today, we are on the National Inclusive Dialogue, Women Voices. Not as open for men and all, no, women voices. All provinces, all women are calling, we call all the women from each provinces to be together, from the districts also, they are together, and we want to deliver our preoccupations, our collaborations, our challenges, and all that. Before that, we collect all the participation, we collect all the speeches, all the voices, and we will send to the court. See in each thematic issue to adjust, and also to see what is supposed to be better and also supposed to change, because many rights, many norms, many issues, many problems happen in Mozambique, and is not on the table. So we bring all the problems from Mozambique, from women's side's problem, to put on the table. So but the women also talking about the men and the children and the elders, but we speaking in a voice women, because as you know, women is the one who manage. Women, we can call the manager women is the manager for the house, is the manager for the community. They are bringing the problems from the families, from the community, and also from the sectors. So we are bringing our problems from the women's side to see the changes in Mozambique. We want to see our voices in the document. We want to see the change on the norms and the rights in the document. And from now, we will monitor the process, because we have, in the group of the technical committee, we have many men than women. The women's, I think, is a one quarter. One quarter, or you can point some, is a very few women. So we believe on that women are sitting there to us to send all our monitoring and evaluation related to point by point.
Thank you, Julia. I think that that's quite clear. At least we know that there is effort to consolidate women voices and try and make the submissions to court. And I think that's commendable. And it's important for us to benefit from the work you are doing. And thanks for sharing with us that. And I'm sure that this is a discussion we'll continue to have for the next 2 years until the dialogue process is delivered. And all the best in the efforts you're doing. And I know that you're in the middle of the meeting. And you guys keep going, and don't and keep bringing as many women from communities as is possible, particularly those who usually don't find themselves on the tables where decisions about their future are being made. And thank you for that, Julia. I want to quickly move to Melania. Melania from Amjish. Melania. And Jonathan, you will have to help us again. And Melania, let's maybe do 7 minutes tops. Is that okay?
Okay, perfect.
Perfect. Okay. Sorry, Jonathan.
Yeah. No, it's
Jonathan?
okay. Yes.
Ok. Bom dia a todos, mais uma vez. Eu represento a AMGIS. Eu vou dar
Good morning to
continuidade ao que
all.
já foi dito.
Good morning to all. I'm Melania. I'm representing AMGIS, and I will be continuing what has just been started.
Ok. Bom, ao longo deste processo, a AMGIS e outras organizações têm vindo a realizar várias ações no sentido de apoiar no processo da escutação.
Along this process, AMGIS and other organizations have been conducting many various activities.
E ao analisarmos esta primeira fase, tivemos muitos avanços, mas também identificamos muitas limitações e que acabam nos oferecendo lições valiosas para aquilo que será a segunda fase.
In this first phase, we believe that we advanced a lot, but we have a few backslides that we believe that are important to address if we want to move on. Yeah.
Nós verificamos ao longo do nosso trabalho no campo e também ao longo das auscultações, verificamos que, infelizmente, nem todas as comunidades, nem todos os grupos marginalizados, eles tiveram uma participação efetiva ao longo do processo das auscultações e isso já demonstra um grande desafio no que concerne à inclusão.
Yes, during our work, we understood that many people that are not truly involved in the process, and
Sim, as pessoas não foram envolvidas diretamente e efetivamente neste processo, outras não chegaram nem a ser ouvidas ao longo do processo da explotação.
many people weren't truly involved or brought into this process, and many of them weren't able to be heard in the first phase.
E, adicionalmente a isso, a comunicação também, a partilha de informações nem sempre foi clara, nem sempre foi acessível.
Sharing the information about the dialogue wasn't always clear, the communication means weren't
O que
very
gerou preocupação,
transparent.
exato, o que gerou preocupação, não é, relativamente àquilo que é a transparência do processo.
Where it generated worries about the process itself.
Verificou-se também a ausência de mecanismos claros de acompanhamento, responsabilização, o que dificultou uma avaliação concreta do cumprimento daquilo que foram os compromissos e recomendações assumidos no início do diálogo.
We verified lack of accountability in the matter of the things that were said in the initial phase of the dialogue.
Portanto, esta experiência, não é, deixou lições fundamentais que devem ser observadas agora para o início daquilo que será a segunda fase.
The experience in the first phase brought really good recommendations that we need to take them to the second phase.
Então, tornou-se importante e evidente, não é? Mostrou-se a partir de agora que a participação da sociedade civil, das mulheres, dos jovens, das comunidades marginalizadas é essencial, que é para garantir que o diálogo ele seja legítimo e representativo, que ele seja realmente inclusivo.
To the dialogue to be national and really inclusive, the first phase showed us that we need to include the marginalized groups to legitimize the dialogue itself.
E também ficou igualmente claro que é necessário que nós estabeleçamos canais de comunicação mais acessíveis, mais eficazes.
It was also clear that from the first phase, we have to bring to the next phase more clear communication mechanisms, more transparency to the next phase.
Ok. Então, isto vai permitir que todos os participantes, todos os moçambicanos compreendam plenamente o que é este processo, como contribuir de forma realmente significativa.
That will allow all Mozambicans to really contribute and to really understand what's going on with this national dialogue process.
Portanto, a transparência deve ser reforçada.
We need to reinforce the transparency.
ok? Tornar acessível toda a informação relativa a agendas, decisões, resultados, que é para garantir e promover maior confiança no processo, porque muitos jovens eles estão a perder a confiança neste processo, ainda na primeira fase, já reclamam, já se mostram indecisos, mas é importante promover aquilo que é a transparência, reforçar a transparência deste processo.
Many young people are mistrusting the process, so we need to reinforce the transparency, sharing the agendas, the results, the outcomes itself with all, in a wide range, so that everybody knows what's going on. Yeah.
Portanto, a sociedade civil ela deve atuar em 4 frentes. Nós entendemos que existem formas de tentar corrigir aquilo que já foi perdido ou corrigir aquilo que estava errado na primeira fase, de modo a não se repetir na segunda fase.
The civil society needs to intervene in 4 ways. First is to recognize the failures of the first phase and adapt to the second phase.
Okay. Era necessário que haja uma representação ativa dos grupos marginalizados, ainda que não seja possível recolher novas contribuições da primeira fase, nós vamos tentar incluir, não é, as mulheres, os jovens, as pessoas com deficiências, as minorias e as comunidades periféricas que estejam elas devem estar diretamente representadas nos fóruns de análise e debate na segunda fase.
We have to, in the second phase, we have to have a true representation of the marginalized groups so that they can feel included in the next phase. We have the old information that has been gathered during the first phase needs to reflect in the second phase, in the draft and the proposal.
Exatamente, por meio de indicações de representantes, observadores, mediadores.
Through all of this needs to happen through the true representation of the people that are leading these marginalized groups.
Certo. E outra questão importante também é com relação à monitoria e fiscalização da transparência.
The issue is regarding the monitoring and fiscalization of transparency, accountability.
Yeah. A sociedade civil é ela que deve tentar acompanhar de perto todo o processo de sistematização.
The civil society needs to accompany all the process of systematization of the information that was gathered during the first phase.
Ok. E também tentar exigir aquilo que é a publicação regular dos relatórios claros, acessíveis e detalhados.
And seek to demand the reports on every issue that was brought upon during the first phase. Yeah.
É essencial também que sejam definidos responsáveis claros, o que a colega já disse anteriormente.
It's necessary that we have people that are in charge, like the other speaker just said.
Ok. Devemos tentar identificar ao longo deste processo, enquanto avançamos, temos que identificar quais são os nossos avanços, quais são as nossas lacunas e de que modo nós podemos corrigir.
Melania, pode repetir?
Sim, dizer, enquanto este mecanismo de responsabilização vai trabalhando, nós vamos tentar observar, como sociedade civil, vamos tentar identificar quais são os avanços, quais são as lacunas, o que podemos corrigir ao longo deste processo.
In this process of accountability, we as civil society need to stick to the process to know what's going on, what were the things that did not succeed, what are the good things that happened during the first phase.
Então, a adoção dessas medidas pode permitir transformar aqueles aprendizados da primeira fase em mudanças reais e mais valiosas para esta segunda fase.
Adopting these mechanisms will help get a better performance in the second phase.
talvez não seja possível incluir a todos e ouvir a todos e trazer a confiança por parte de todos, mas é uma tentativa que deve ser feita de forma conjunta.
Maybe it won't be possible to include all people, but we need to do this process. We need to do it all together and try to bring all together in this process.
E este diálogo ele só será verdadeiramente inclusivo se tentarmos colocar lá representadas todas as vozes.
And this dialogue will only be possible if we put all the voices that represent these groups there in the dialogue.
Então, cabe à sociedade civil assumir essa postura e converter essas lições e estar em cima deste processo e tentar mobilizar a maior parte da população para não perder aquilo que é a esperança no processo de diálogo nacional inclusivo.
It's up to the civil society to do this, to engage in this process of accountability and try to bring all as many people as possible to this national dialogue.
Muito obrigada, Jonathan.
Okay, thank you, and that's about it.
Thank you so much. I think quite to the point, and really emphasizing the importance of building on the lessons from phase 1 and what has already taken place, so that phase 2 is better managed. We bring more voices on the table, but also we are able to bring accountability to what have been put on the table by citizens across the country. And I know that as young people, you are leading the charge to try and make sure that there is proper accountability and bring more voices from universities, from the locations, from everywhere. And I'm quite confident, having had discussions with you guys at your offices, that the work you are doing would be important going to phase 2. So thank you so much, Amjish, for the work you are doing, but also for the presentation. Thank you. Thank you. I want to quickly dash to our next speaker before we go to the last speaker. And I want to bring in my good friend, Dr. Joao Pereira. And I see that we said Musk on our poster, but Joao is with Tiveran Foundation. And he has been a strong voice again in civil society on advancing a lot of these things we are doing. And I know that working on peace and conflict is also an area that he is quite an expert on. And so, Joao, I think that it's quite clear that there are a lot of questions on this process than their answers, particularly from non-political actors, the civil society, as you can pick. Can you help us unpack what this process is supposed to be? I think that would be the first thing that I would, during your presentation, I know you prepared remarks, so you could go ahead with your remarks, but also help us unpack what this process is actually supposed to be in terms of its methodology, in terms of how others are supposed to fit into this process, the way it was sort of conceptualized, but also maybe a bit of nuggets on what civil society need to do to be effective going into phase 2, and any of the issues that you have picked from seeing the process start until where it is now and where it's likely to go. So, Joao, I'm assuming, yeah, I can see you, so that's good.
No, thank you very much for the opportunity, and also to have this platform in order to discuss some of the issues that I think that is very interesting at this moment. The first thing, I've always questioned to my colleagues from civil society organizations that always criticize that this process is not very inclusive. I always ask them, how can we make this process and other process inclusive when you have more than 6% of the population who doesn't speak Portuguese? And then all the consultative process that we organize is conducted in Portuguese language. This becomes also a historical barrier for any process that involves consultation in Mozambique. This is one point. And another point is that although that this is when you talk inclusive process, a lot of our process is being captured or by political elite, by media elite, or by civil society elite. And then the process of making inclusive become also problematic from this type of perspective. And even today we are having this women conference with support of different civil society organizations. If I ask those organizations that are in this forum how consultative they were to the other women that live in the deeply rural area in Mozambique to bring the concern of these women to the national dialogue, you will see that that a lot of those civil society organizations that defend the women issue, youth issue, they also face a challenge in order to bring this process that they are conduct to be inclusive and reach those who are in the unreachable area to become part of the process. And another thing that also that we also need to know now is that a lot of Mozambicans, they don't have a trust in any process, in any political process. This become also a key challenge for this national inclusive dialogue is how we build trust, how we help this process at least to bring the result that is a result that will change not only the reform in terms of policy, but in terms of also the political culture. When I refer to the political culture, is the culture that is already embedded in our political system, the culture of corruption, the culture of manipulation of electoral result, the culture of make a promise that we cannot be delivered, the culture that there is no genuine political willing of a real reconciliation process, real political reform. And then how we communicate also to the Mozambican citizens some of the reform that we want. We might not have the result in 2 years or 3 years. It is a long-term reform that we need to go through. And then you have the population that want a quick fix problem. And this become also another big challenge. And we as a civil society organization contribute also to create an expectation that we know that we cannot achieve it in 1 year or 2 years. This is why we need also to be very careful how we communicate with the public in order to not generate a lot of expectation for the process that we know that might not bring the result that we expect in the short time. The same constraint that we have in terms of financial resource and also logistics, the national inclusive dialogue also face the same constraint. Imagine that we had a 2.2 more or less $2 million US. I'm not sure if there are other donors who contributed again. But with the departure of some donor, they were cut in the budget. If you want it to be inclusive, to make more district, more community be consulted in this process, you have constraint in terms of logistics and the financial resource. And our country, they don't have enough financial resource to support an initiative that can cover each district, each locality, each community, each individual. And this becomes also a big challenge. And how we can avoid, how we can overcome this challenge. We can also take a lot of survey that was already done by Afrobarometer, which is a citizen perception about government of Mozambique. We have a lot of study conducted by civil society organization. We have so much focus group that we conduct. We have so much document, secondary document that is inside of many civil society organizations. We have to be able to use all those material and then formulate a clear policy and then try to influence from inside about what is our expectation in terms of reform. Even if we do that one, our civil society organization or our society is not homogeneous. We need to discuss about what is our common vision regarding electoral reform. What is our common vision regarding reconciliation? What is our common vision regarding decentralization? Because there are many ways of doing decentralization process. Do we, as a civil society organization, have a common vision? What type of decentralization process that we need for our society or for our country? What type of reconciliation process that we need for our country? And this is also an exercise that we need to do as a civil society organization and come up with a common agenda in terms of what type of framework, in terms of reconciliation, in terms of electoral reform, in terms of decentralization. My advice when I speak with Mapapa, Dr. Mapapa from National Inclusive Dialogue, I always tell, and even also with Donna, I say that rather than to be too broad, maybe it's better for us to focus in 3 pillars. One pillar on the electoral reform, another pillar in terms of decentralization process, another pillar in terms of reconciliation. If we take this stage to focus on these 3 pillars, I think that we can get better results rather than to have so many areas, so many issues, so many ideas regard to national inclusive dialogue, because at the end, we might generate a lot of expectation, but with a poor, clear result. And another thing that we need to focus is, yes, once we have those proposals in terms of what type of electoral reform that we need, what type of decentralization process that we need, what type of reconciliation process that we need, and then at the end, all this document has to be submitted in the parliament. The question is our political party willing to make those reforms that the citizens of Mozambique or the civil society of Mozambique want? If they are not well committed with that proposal that was submitted in the parliament, I think that we are in a very good condition to have another conflict in 2028. I will stop there.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. That was a lot, and yeah, quite deep, because I think that you bring to the fore a lot of things that really need attention. The feasibility of the reforms in the current scope they have been presented in the given time of 2 years. Is it possible to really undergo that amount of comprehensive reforms as touted in the court documents? So I think that that's one of the things that even as we go to phase 2, we need to pay attention to, because the reality, as you said, is that when citizens are frustrated, expectations have been built, and we get to the end of 2 years and the same problems are repeated, it then becomes a challenge. Electoral reforms, if they are undertaken now in the next election, is it possible to really have an election under the new electoral environment or electoral laws. And so the reality aspect of what we're trying to do is also very important. And thanks for bringing that to the fore. And I think that obviously as civil society, our messaging has to be on point, and we have to be sort of in agreement with or an understanding of the process. But I want to be specific, Joao, in 1 minute to you. Your understanding of the process from court's point of view, is it the same that you are hearing from colleagues in civil society? Is there a shared understanding of what Makwakwa and his team think they are doing or what they are supposed to do, and the way civil society is seeing that process unfolding? Do you think there is an understanding of this process from the civil society, and that same understanding is shared by Makwakwa and his team?
No, I think that the opportunity there exists. But the problem is that the national inclusive dialogue start with the lack of trust from some civil society organization, some part of the civil society organization. Right from the beginning, it become also problematic, and you have also part of an Amola group that are also not involved, who also criticize there. You have also some people in the media that also they don't believe in the process. And I think that we cannot be able to have a process that will be accepted by the whole society, and what they are trying to do is that with support from different civil society organizations is to open to different actors, even those who don't believe. They are going there to ask them to participate in the process, participate on the discussion, and this is the type of contribution that we think that we as a civil society organization, even those who didn't believe it, now they are trying to organize themselves and then participate in the process.
Okay.
And this is one thing. And another thing is that you have all those political parties. Let's say with the electoral reform, I think that the civil society organization want independent national electoral commission. And then the question that the political parties ask is that how we are going to be sure that those who come from the civil society organization, they don't have a party affiliation, because in the case of Mozambique, and we have a representative from civil society organization, but even by having a representative of civil society organization inside of National Electoral Commission, we didn't get any different result compared when the National Electoral Commission was under control of the political parties, even the style also.
Okay.
And then we are pushing for independent National Electoral Commission. And then the political party themselves see this process as a political process, and then they have to be representative in that type of mechanism so that they can also accommodate. It's a job for the boys. And then how you are going to make sure that this reform will reflect the view of the people.
So what we want to do, Doc, is at some point, we want to get, I think, the next dialogue on Mozambique specifically under this series. We want to get into a deep dive of the content that's coming into the commissions on the different thematic areas. And I think that would touch on some of those issues on electoral reforms. But thank you for that. And one of the important things you raised, which I think that civil society has to also try and push, that court sort of takes on board, is using information that you have already gathered over the years. what Afrobarometer has done, what civil society organizations like MASK and many others have been doing over the years. That information clearly defines what Mozambicans perceive to be a Mozambique that would belong to everyone, that they would belong to rather. And so it's important to locate how we can use the previous processes and dialogues to shape and inform this process. So thank you for bringing that on board. I want to quickly jump to the last speaker, Ambassador Mandisi Mpahlo. And Ambassador, I know that you were paying attention just like all of us here. And clearly, as I said earlier, there are many questions. What are you picking? But also, is there a role for the region to try and either gain lessons from this process or help inform this process? Because we know we have mechanisms like the MRG at SADC level and SEAC itself, the SADC Electoral Advisory Council, that is supposed to help us not see election as an event, but a continuous process of national building. And with that, one of the mandates they are tasked with is to prevent conflicts. That in the next election, therefore, we don't see another conflict in Mozambique. But also, more importantly, as civil society in the region, what role can we play? Ambassador? Teboho, I'm assuming Ambassador is here. Oh, perfect.
Yes, I'm here, Munjozi. Good day to everyone. If I may, could I start with a request in relation to the presentation made by Joao? One of the points he made was that what he has been suggesting is that there needs to be a focus on 3 areas. I missed the third one, and in case I don't have the opportunity to raise this during the discussion.
Mais confusão, né?
So I captured electoral reform, decentralization, but I couldn't catch the third one.
Joao, what was the third one? Joao?
Reconciliation.
Reconciliation. Okay.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay. Right.
This is just for my notes. I keep quite a good record of our discussions in these sessions. Thank you very much, Mojozi, and I will try to respond to the issues that you have asked me to address, perhaps at the end. But I obviously did prepare some remarks, and I'm going to ask you to indulge me in terms of where I begin. And I believe we should begin by examining the circumstances that gave rise to the need for a national dialogue in Mozambique, and perhaps more generally as has happened in other societies. In this regard, I have in mind that the need for national dialogues has arisen in several countries in our region. SADC, for example, Zimbabwe, we've had a lot of discussions around that. Eswatini, the then Zaire, now Democratic Republic of Congo. Just to remind people that we have had a sort of national dialogue when all the parties from Zaire then spent, I think, about 40 days in South Africa, huddled together in, charting the way forward for what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo. But also in South Africa itself, the need for a national dialogue has actually come up. And it may well be that such a need has arisen in Tanzania and perhaps in Madagascar following recent elections in those two countries. And my view would be that the need for such national dialogues results from one or more of the scenarios that I'm going to outline. One is breakdown of political systems that are unrepresentative or are subject to popular challenge. Governmental and institutional systems of the state that do not serve basic needs of the population and or are characterized by levels of corruption that put such services beyond the reach of those with limited means. Thirdly, public and private institutional systems that function on the basis of patronage and thus fail to meet the standard of openness and foreclosing opportunities that then become the exclusive preserve of those who are part of such patronage networks or are willing to engage in corrupt practices as a key to access. Fourth, electoral processes, systems, and institutions that subvert the political will and produce outcomes that do not reflect popular choices. And lastly, persistent economic problems due to failure to bring about changes that improve the condition of the majority of the population, worsening unemployment and inequality, lack of access to economic opportunities for the vast majority, in a context of minorities that are seen to monopolize such opportunities. These are but some of the conditions that give rise to the need for fundamental changes that could come about through revolution in worst-case scenarios or through national dialogue processes. In the context of this dialogue, it could be said that the circumstances that have brought about the present national dialogue in Mozambique are a reflection of several, if not most, of the examples that I've cited above. To the extent that the need for a national dialogue has arisen out of the scenarios referred to, the fundamental questions that become central are how such a national dialogue is convened, who has the legitimacy to convene it and determine its scope and terms of reference, what would meet the standard of inclusivity and ensure a broad-based dialogue process. Perhaps more brutally, the question may be posed as to whether those that may be perceived to have been at the center of the failures that I highlighted above could be legitimate conveners of such a national dialogue and hold the keys to how it functions, who participates, and what its scope and terms of reference are. Having said all of this, I know that it may be said that the issues I'm raising are inappropriate or irrelevant in the context of this SALO dialogue, addressing itself to the Mozambique National Dialogue that has concluded phase one of the process and preparing to go into the second phase. It could further be stated that the horse has bolted and that the Mozambique National Dialogue is already underway and that these issues belong in the foundational phase. And I assure you that I am mindful and alive to the possibility that such a view may arise. Let me further assure you that I accept that even against the backdrop of an election whose legitimacy was contested by Mozambicans, in ways and to an extent that was unprecedented in the post-independence history of the country. The electoral outcome was validated with some adjustments, and as a result, a government and parliament were installed. I also welcome that against the backdrop of the unprecedented protests that followed the election, there was a realization by the new president that it could not be business as usual, and a national dialogue process was set in motion. To be sure of the posture I've adopted, the launch of the Mozambique National Dialogue marked a departure from previous dialogues or negotiations that historically were between two parties who I previously stated were armed and had capacity for violence, and this time included more political parties, but only those represented in parliament, as well as civil society and youth formations. I would, however, argue that the foundational issues I raised earlier are appropriate and relevant if we are to address ourselves to the SALO dialogue's intent to view the conclusion of phase 1 as an opportunity to reflect critically on the achievements, limitations, and lessons from phase 1. In this regard, and with the benefit of having participated in 2 previous SALO dialogue sessions on the Mozambique National Dialogue, I take the view that the achievements are hard to assess, as the process has lacked the openness of a true national dialogue process and gives an impression of a controlled process rather than a genuine, people-centered, and public dialogue in which citizens have a genuine opportunity to shape the destiny of their country. One of the issues that has been consistently raised has been the limited space for civil society participation, which was clearly demonstrated by a technical commission dominated by political parties who constitute 19 of its 21 members and very few civil society representatives, and 2 youth representatives that come from one party, if I remember very well. Concerns have also been raised around the representation of women who bear the brunt of the failures of the political and economic system of the country. And yet they are anchors in both their families for livelihood and sustenance, and in their communities for social organizations such as burial and mutual benefit associations that assist such communities. If this is to become a meaningful national dialogue, it will need to be responsive to these concerns that have been raised, because it is not a national dialogue for itself, but a platform for citizens to shape the form and content as well as the direction of the country. It is also my view that such a process as a national dialogue in Mozambique is about far more than the contested electoral outcomes of 24, but rather about long-term systemic failures that found their most vociferous expression in the aftermath of the recent elections. To the extent, therefore, that the process appears to be controlled, lacks the openness and transparency that should characterize a genuine national dialogue, its outcomes will continue to be circumscribed by those who control the political and economic levers of the country and serve to protect their interests. Put more bluntly, it will be a national dialogue process that ensures that the fundamental anchors of the status quo are not disturbed and at best result in piecemeal reforms that address superficial issues and tinkering at the edges of the system rather than address the core and fundamental issues that gave rise to the need for a national dialogue in the first place. Those from civil society that have the opportunity to participate in the process as currently constituted will have to consider sharpening their tools of engagement and strengthen their voices within and outside of the confines of the structures of the national dialogue, to up the ante and raise the temperature regarding the weaknesses and limitations that have been identified as the second phase approaches, perhaps as a condition for continued participation in the national dialogue. It may be that there could be greater value derived from jamming the process than to be associated with a process that fails to address issues such as inclusivity, transparency, citizen participation, and engagement with communities, and also to address issues of the scope and shape of the dialogue process. Having said so, and with the benefit of having lived in Mozambique long enough to understand the system, I know that this is not going to be easy, but change makers are never limited by difficulties. They understand that the struggle for fundamental change is a hard and long road. Change makers also learn that success is also about adaptation, forging alliances, and adopting tactical agility. As far as SADC, at an organizational and institutional level, I continue to be concerned about its loss of leverage to mainstream political, electoral, and security issues of member states in its deliberations. But to the extent that the SADC Secretariat showed interest and registered its support for the Mozambique National Dialogue process through its presence at the launch of the dialogue process, this represents an avenue for civil society organizations to consider engagement on an ongoing basis with the SADC Secretariat, even as one understands that SADC continues to be a state and government-centered organization. I thank SALO for inviting me to participate and share my thoughts on this process, and I look forward to our engagement, and more importantly, to hear from Mozambican participants, activists, and practitioners on how they see and experience the situation in their country, because it can be easy for us to postulate from a distance, far removed from the realities, constraints, and stumbling blocks they encounter. And I do want to say, Mujodzi, that I've always been encouraged by, the resilience and the activism of Mozambican civil society, and their continued, efforts against very, very heavy odds, in terms of how the Mozambican system actually functions. I truly, commend them. And I did have, the opportunity and benefit of enjoying a degree, I would say, of closeness to some of the civil society organizations of Mozambique during my time there. And that's what really helped me, to have a greater appreciation of the issues, of Mozambique. So I hope that my input following on, all of the inputs that we have received also, helps to add a little bit in terms of how, we chart the way forward and how we can approach the second phase of the national dialogue process in Mozambique. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. Always a privilege to listen to you and tap from the experience and the wisdom. And I'm quite sure that colleagues from Mozambique are also benefiting from what you have laid. The importance of always going back to the foundations. Why did we start this dialogue process? What did we seek to achieve at the time? Are we still on track to do that? And I think the importance, again, SADC, no matter the frustration we have with it, I think it's important for us to keep engaging with SADC, because you don't know the day they will come and save us when things get out of hand. But it's important to ensure that we tap into the instruments they have to strengthen our local instruments. And I know that colleagues from Mozambique are also pushing to try and ensure that that happens. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ambassador. Can we, if there are 2, 3 burning questions, I know that we are already beyond time, but I want us to try and get 1 or 2 comments if they are. I see Ambassador Carmen. Can you come in? Can we get 1 or 2 other comments, if questions? That would be good. Then I just want to give 1 minute to each of the speakers, give us a sense of where to from here. But yeah, Ambassador Carmen.
Thank you for the opportunity. Good morning, all. I just have from the presentations and across the presentations, it has come very clear and apparent that economics is a key element across the board. I like the fact that it needs to be focused, because if you look at something like South Sudan, the 5-year plan, it wasn't sufficient time.
Did we lose you, Ambassador? Is it me? Table. Sorry?
I think we've lost the ambassador a bit there.
Oh, okay. No, I thought it was me, so that's okay. So I think that the issue of the economy, and I think it was Jonathan who brought that issue quite strongly, that young people are more focused on the aspect of their economic realities and lack of opportunity at the moment, and that has to be, and I think every other Mozambique would want a Mozambique that addresses their bread and butter issues. I think Ambassador was also touching on the issue of time, giving an example of South Sudan, that a 5-year plan was not sufficient for adequate reforms. And we have a 2-year plan in Mozambique. Would that be sufficient for the scope of the reforms? And I think that that is to bolster the point that Joao was putting on the table, that maybe we need to phase our priorities and say, for this period, let's focus on electoral reforms, on reconciliation, on other issues, and then move in phases. That would be quite again, important discussions to have among Mozambican civil society, but broadly among regional civil society, learning on the timing, the time that reforms can take effect. We know other dialogues in the region that have taken 2, 3 years, and still, when the next round of elections came, we discovered that we didn't do anything. We were at 0. So that can be a nightmare. Do we have another hand, Teboho? So in the
And
absence
that I
of
can see.
no, that's fine. That's perfect. And I think that one of the things that keeps coming back for colleagues, especially the Mozambican colleagues, is around being able to identify which of our reforms, even if they are passed by Parliament, would still need constitutional changes. Which of these would not require you to change the Constitution. And what does that mean in terms of this dialogue process? But also, once you have submitted submissions to court and court has submitted to the parliament process itself, do we have control over the dialogue process? Does the dialogue over the parliament process, does the parliament process allow the level of inclusivity that you are yearning for? Or politicians, I think it was Joao that talked about elites, both in politics, in civil society, and in business, I think, having to come together and elite pact so that they don't have to carry the issues that are put on the table by ordinary citizens. So once it's a parliamentary process, what mechanisms do we have to ensure that the parliament passes what citizens put on the table? Or it will be again another dialogue, another process at parliament level that leads to reforms that do not speak to the captured views. Ate, in 1 minute.
Thank you, Joseph. I think it's just a comment and also just maybe to pose a question in relation to what I would call the second phase of the dialogue. I think at the moment the focus is how do you deal with issues of electoral reforms, avoiding the post-election conflicts and violence and the concentration in terms of the outcomes and all those platforms. But then when it comes to the second phase, I think what would be the issues in relation to the local kind of responses to issues such as social tensions, the issues of economic tensions, the growing gaps in terms of how local people actually are getting into the economy and participating fully in an equal way. So I think those issues that point to how it becomes this hierarchy between the local issues and what ordinary people are saying in Mozambique and what happens then, as you highlighted just now, in terms of the parliamentary process, does that speak to whether the constitution will be reviewed and there will be some changes that take effect into these issues that have been raised so far? So does that now open up an opportunity to speak broadly about the disadvantages and also the concerns that ordinary people have been raising when it comes to the economy and how they participate when it comes to social tensions as well amongst different political formations in relation to moving forward now and establishing a more inclusive approach towards governance and political reforms in Mozambique. Thank you.
Thank you, Ate. And just to go back to the speakers, I think with Mozambique, the interesting thing is that this dialogue process was not named just the national dialogue process. It's called the National Inclusive Dialogue. And I think that that's why the issue of inclusivity becomes important and why a lot of people, civil society and other actors keep going back to the question of inclusivity. And thanks, Ate, for the issues around the economy. And I think we can get clarity. Prof. Euclides, just your final words. And I know that what I think will have to continue to happen is creation of many platforms for Mozambican actors to find each other, to speak to each other, even not just through the formal process of the dialogue process itself, but create as many platforms so that people are able to speak up, able to build strategy on how to be effective in participating in the dialogue process. And there is a limitation, of course. Joao puts the issue of resources, the challenges that will obviously be on the table, but to the best of people's ability. But Prof. Euclides, after hearing all these inputs and hearing Ambassador Mandisi, your parting shots.
Thank you. I mean, we had very rich interventions. I subscribe to various points from the colleagues that followed. Maybe just two parting remarks. And the first is related to your last point that has to do with the platforms. In reality, Mozambicans are in dialogue in many, many ways. So clearly, what we've learned from our discussion today is that dialogue is not the main issue. It's easy to mobilize Mozambicans to speak, but then we need to do a better work in terms of how we organize the dialogues. Who is getting into dialogue, and what are the issues that we need to dialogue about, and that is at the start, and that applies even to meetings such as this one. So the more we narrow down the questions as you proposed, we will. It can be done in follow-up sessions. The better, because the tendency is to try and cover many issues, and then we have interesting discussions, but we open up issues and we do not make steps in the sense of going forward. My second point note is that clearly dialogue needs to continue beyond the time frame of this national and inclusive dialogue. And the reason is one, João Pereira mentioned, and you also mentioned, processes of reconciliation are not done administratively in 2, 4, or 5 years. They take the time that they need to take. That's one. And two, structural changes also are not done administratively. Various interventions mention the structural issues in the economy of Mozambique, but also in terms of our political processes. We need time to address those both economic and issues that have to do with our political processes. Those are also not eligible for administrative timelines of the kinds we have set up for the national and inclusive dialogue. I think we need to acknowledge that as a point of departure, and then make a decision in terms of what are the urgent questions that we need to address. Again, some of the interventions also mentioned various emerging questions. Some have to do directly with the effects and actions that took place during the electoral process, but others have to do with structural issues. How do we rebuild trust in political and public institutions? How do we start address basic issues in terms of service delivery, health, education, transportation, jobs? So for all of these things, we need appropriate forums and narrow discussions rather than lumping them all together in a national inclusive dialogue that does a very good job of compiling a list of issues and challenges, but is not the adequate platform to start working on how to address these issues. I think those would be my remarks, and say thank you for stimulating this debate. Clearly, while the national dialogue may be going to its later stage, the issues that have been raised require further work, and this work goes far beyond what the national and inclusive dialogue is proposing.
Thank you, Prof. I think it was also quite quite a privilege to have you on the platform and to hear you unpack some of these things. And I think that in the coming dialogues, some of the issues you have put on the table continue to be part of the discussions, not just on the SALO platform, but on other platforms. I want to move to Jonathan. Your parting.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yeah.
Just before we move on, there is a question that was put in the chat by Ambassador Carmen.
Okay.
So she's put the question in. I don't know if I'm clear. Can I read the question out?
Can you read it as quickly as possible?
Okay. Economics is a common element across. The time limit is an issue. I agree that the issues need to be streamlined. Women have been trained across the continent in terms of team building. How do we bring in local women to make a meaningful contribution? And how do we address local economic integration to build a more inclusive outcome?
Okay. Prof, do you want to come back to that? Or?
Maybe I'll leave that one to Julia if she's still in the meeting, or they are the ones working in trying to get more women to participate.
So I think Julia and Ferosa, Ferosa is still here. Okay, all right, cool. Jonathan.
Yes. Well, as my final remarks, I would like to go back when one of the speakers were talking about generating expectations, because in this process, as the ambassador said, and many other speakers, the problem that this national dialogue, is addressing, are problems that not just come from the less political post-electoral crisis, but from a range of aspects that were not solved during a lot of time, a good amount of time. So we need to work in in delivering real results. In this responsibility, I believe, is not just from the government or the people that are the political institutions, but civil society as well. And as Dr. Pereira said, we suggested that we need to find common ground in most of the thematic issues that this dialogue rises up. Because if we don't find common ground, we will be talking about dialogue, and when it comes to delivering some results or delivering real reforms, we won't have common ground. We won't have consensus. And dialogue is about accountability, is about consensus, about transparency. And we as Mozambique need to work in this common ground in every issue that the political dialogue addresses. To be specific, as youth, as part of the youth community, we will try to continue to engage in a sustainable talks with youth from around the country and diaspora, because we as Inclusão, as many other organizations, are trying to create a youth framework that will address we want to set common ground about the youth demands and youth point of view on the issues that are priority for the country right now. So thank you, and yeah.
Thank you, Jonathan, and stay right there because I want to bring in Melania to yeah. Your closing remarks, Melania?
Muito obrigada mais uma vez. E vou mesmo agradecer, antes de me despedir, agradecer em nome da AMGIS pelo convite e por podermos deixar ficar aquilo que são as nossas contribuições em relação a este processo.
Thank you for this
Deste
moment.
lado. Sim, Jonathan, desculpa.
Thank you for this moment. I think for myself and from Amjish for this moment, so that we could share our insights about the national dialogue.
Sem dizer que continuaremos deste lado a trabalhar no sentido de trazer a voz daqueles que muitas vezes não são ouvidos e são deixados de lado. Muito obrigada.
We will continue working to bring up the voices from the marginalized communities. And once again, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Melania. Thank you so much. Always a good thing to talk to young people because your voices are important, and keep doing the work you're doing. And Jonathan, again, stay right there because I want to bring Rosa. Rosa, please come in. Your parting shot, but also if you had the question that was read in the chat, if you're able to just touch on that. There is she in. Feroza.
Estou aqui, estou a conduzir, acompanhei todo o debate. Muito obrigada por essa oportunidade. Ficamos aguardando pelas próximas oportunidades e recomendando que devemos divulgar mais para que tenhamos mais participação, porque não podemos estar nós a falar que é o diálogo não é inclusivo, e nós também realizamos eventos que nós não divulgamos. Obrigada, abraço para todos.
Feroza is actually driving right now, but she said she's very thankful for this opportunity and that we need to continue to advocate for more participation in this dialogue and not just stay in the sidelines saying that this is not inclusive, this is not transparent, we need to participate. And she said, thank you, and that's all. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Jonathan. And let me just from my end, just thank you again for being here. I want to ask our colleague Amatle to give us some closing remarks. And yeah, thank you. Let's keep talking. Let's keep engaging. Let's keep pushing as much as we can from wherever we are. Amatle.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amahle Kimbili, and I'm with SALO. I'd like to extend SALO's sincere thanks to all our speakers for their insightful and considered contributions. Your reflections have added important depth to the discussions on Mozambique's national dialogue process and the prospects for democratic consolidation as the country enters its next phase. We also thank everyone who joined us today. Your engagement and participation reaffirm the value of creating inclusive spaces for dialogue, particularly at critical moments of political transition and uncertainty. SALO would like to express its appreciation to Irish Aid for its support in facilitating this dialogue. We are grateful for its commitment to supporting open region. Looking ahead, SALO will continue to convene these multi-stakeholder dialogues as part of our broader effort to connect local realities with regional and international policy processes and to amplify non-state perspectives across Southern Africa. Thank you once again to all our speakers and participants for your time and contributions, and we wish you a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Amache, and thank you, colleagues. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.